So there is this old African proverb that goes, a fool has to say something. A
Hmm.
wise man has something to say.
Oh, that's good. It really, it forces you to take an immediate inventory of your own motivations, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are you actually speaking from substance, or are you just making noise because the room is quiet?
Right, just filling the silence. And that tension, that exact difference between real substance and just, performative noise, that is the beating heart of our deep dive today.
Absolutely.
We've actually got an incredibly diverse stack of sources to go through. We're weaving together um, Leo Tolstoy, modern athletic training, Confucius, some thoughts from Ryan Holiday on parenting, and even, this is my favorite part, a screenwriting note about the movie Silver Linings Playbook.
It's quite the lineup.
It really is. But I want to start with this parable by Anthony DeMello because it completely reframed how I look at my own priorities.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so picture this. A massive crowd gathers around this master, and they are completely fixated on the afterlife, just grilling him about what happens beyond the grave.
Right, they want the whole blueprint for eternity.
Exactly. But the master, he just laughs. He outright refuses to give them a straight answer.
Which naturally does not go over well with the crowd.
Oh, they're so frustrated. They press him, demanding to know why he's evading this crucial question. And he finally looks at them and says, "Have you observed that it is precisely those who do not know what to do with this life who want another that will last forever?"
Man, that is a devastating response.
Right.
Because it just completely strips away all the false piety of your questioning. Like, they think they're being these deeply spiritual seekers, but he just exposes it as, a form of escapism.
Yeah, but there's this one disciple who just will not let it go. He steps right up and demands a binary answer. He says, "But is there life after death or is there not?"
Of course he does.
And the master just flips the entire premise on its head. He tells the disciple, "Is there life before death?" That is the question.
Wow.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because reading that, it immediately felt like staring at a GPS. Like, we spend all our time obsessing over the destination on Google Maps, checking the ETA, looking at alternate routes, but we aren't even sitting in the car yet.
Right, it's such a perfect analogy. Because the master is essentially doing a bit of philosophical jujitsu here.
What do you mean?
Well, he's weaponizing the disciple's own distraction against him. If you think about the psychological mechanism at play, the disciple wants these concrete answers about a realm he can't verify.
Right, something totally out of reach.
Exactly. And more importantly, it's a realm he doesn't have to actively take responsibility for right now. Worrying about the far horizon is incredibly safe. It requires absolutely zero immediate action.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes so much sense.
So the master just redirects him to the unglamorous present. Because that's the only ground where the disciple actually has jurisdiction. It's the foundational rule for everything we're talking about today.
Which brings up, honestly, kind of a terrifying question. If we are supposed to be focusing on this life, like the literal ground under our feet, where does that actual living take place?
Right.
And this is where we transition to Leo Tolstoy, because he tackles this head on in his Calendar of Wisdom.
Such a fascinating book.
It is. And he writes, as soon as a person asks himself the question, how do I live my life in the best way?
Mm.
Then all other questions are answered.
But he's very specific about where that living actually happens, right?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
He insists it doesn't happen where we think it does. It does not happen out in the visible world. It happens entirely in what he calls the inner domain.
Yeah, and Tolstoy pushes this concept to a place that honestly makes our modern sensibilities deeply uncomfortable.
He really does.
He quotes Alexander Herzen saying, instead of saving humanity, every person should save himself.
Which, I mean, in today's culture,
Right.
where we are so hyper-focused on visible activism and public contribution, that sounds almost offensively selfish.
It does. It sounds like an endorsement of just complete isolation.
Yeah, but I don't think it is. So what does this all mean? To me, it's like the airplane safety rule, right?
Oh.
You put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others.
That's a great way to look at it.
We think we're being so noble by trying to save humanity, but Tolstoy is basically saying you can't save anyone if you're internally suffocating. But I have to ask you, has our modern obsession with visible outward change just completely blinded us to this inner work?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think your oxygen mask analogy perfectly captures the mechanism of what Tolstoy is arguing. Because Herzen's quote, it's not a retreat into selfishness.
Right.
It's a vital correction of sequence. We simply have the order wrong. Tolstoy actually notes that the more people believe others can improve their lives, the slower any real improvement will occur.
Wow, that's powerful.
Because outward change, the kind we can, measure, photograph, post on social media, that is never the substance itself. Outward change is only ever the visible residue of inner work that has already been done.
Visible residue. I love that phrasing.
Or conversely, it's the visible absence of it.
That phrase completely alters the way you evaluate success. Because it means the outward stuff, the shiny stuff, isn't the main event. It's just the exhaust.
Exactly.
It's just what is left over after the invisible work has actually taken place.
And if you focus solely on manufacturing that residue, you are ignoring the substance completely. It's like trying to build a house by just painting the air where the walls should be.
Right. But let's look at the reality of how we live today. Because if this inner work is the only true living, why are we so bad at it? We seem systematically designed to ignore this inner domain.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you look at the modern workplace.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Ryan Holiday talks about in his reflections on parenting and professional life. He points to these walls we build, and we cheerfully label these walls, healthy boundaries or work-life balance.
Which sound great on paper.
They sound amazing. But Holiday points out how frequently these so-called boundaries curdle into concealment.
Right. They become this unspoken mandate to just hide.
Exactly. So you have parents struggling in absolute silence. You've got a father sitting in his cubicle projecting this aura of total corporate control, while internally he is agonizing over some crisis with his teenager at home.
Yeah, he's just suffocating in the inner domain.
And the tragic irony is that the woman in the cubicle right next to him is projecting the exact same facade while going through the exact same hell.
Just suffering in close physical proximity, but absolute emotional isolation.
Right. And Holiday argues that the remedy here is to let the two selves, the professional and the parental, be visibly the same person.
Which touches on this really severe warning from the 19th century French writer Paul Bourget. He warned, one is live the way one thinks or end up thinking the way one has lived.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this on behalf of anyone who's currently surviving a corporate job right now.
Fair enough.
Are boundaries supposed to be healthy? Like, are we saying oversharing our personal chaos at the office is the goal? Am I supposed to bring my absolute messiest, unfiltered self into a Tuesday morning marketing sink?
No, definitely not.
Okay, good. So what is the practical difference between a healthy professional boundary and this fatal compartmentalization Bourget is warning us about?
Well, what's fascinating here is that Bourget is absolutely not advocating for trauma dumping in the company Slack channel.
Thank goodness.
Right. He is talking about the psychological danger of profound cognitive dissonance. Think about the mechanism of performance.
Yep.
If you compartmentalize your inner self for 40 or 50 hours a week, if you're performing this highly sanitized, ruthless, or just apathetic avatar at work, while trying to keep your true empathetic self hidden at home, your brain adapts to the role you play most often.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Over time, the performance actually overwrites your actual personality.
So a mask literally becomes a face.
Precisely. You stop generating your own genuine thoughts, and you begin thinking the thoughts that your corporate performance requires of you. The inner self starves from a lack of expression.
That is terrifying.
So coherence between the inner and outer self, it isn't just a nicety. It's not about being authentic just for the sake of some modern buzzword.
Right. It's not a branding exercise.
No, it is literal survival for your inner domain.
Okay, so if we accept that, if we agree that we need this unified inner and outer self to survive, how do we actually build it without breaking down under the pressure of real life?
That's the real challenge, isn't it?
Because just acknowledging the need for a root system doesn't automatically grant you one. And this is where we shift to the physical, structural how-to, which I love. There is this brilliant rule from modern athletic training that perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, the vessel and the engine.
Yes. The rule is you have to build a sleeker vessel before you build a bigger engine. The specific advice they give is don't put a Ferrari engine in a Volkswagen frame.
The biomechanics of that perfectly mirror the spiritual mechanics Tolstoy was describing earlier.
Okay.
Well, in athletic training, building the vessel means prioritizing movement quality, joint stability, tissue resilience, things like endurance.
The boring stuff.
Exactly. The invisible, tedious work. It does not look impressive on Instagram. But only when that physical frame is fortified can you safely add the engine, which is speed, raw power, and explosiveness.
Because if you just bolt a massive Ferrari engine onto a rusty, unprepared Volkswagen frame, the car doesn't suddenly win the race.
No, the torque of the engine literally tears the frame to pieces.
It just creates a catastrophic injury. And Confucius actually nailed this exact dynamic thousands of years ago when he said, "Knowledge without practice is useless. Practice without knowledge is dangerous."
Yeah, action without foundation doesn't just lead to stagnation, it leads to breakage. It's force without a frame.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it reminds me of watching a skyscraper being built in a major city.
Oh, yeah, the hole in the ground.
Right. The developers will spend like 18 months just digging this massive, unglamorous hole in the dirt. They are pouring thousands of tons of concrete deep underground where the public will never, ever see it.
Just building the vessel.
Exactly. And they do all of that before a single shiny window goes up into the skyline. But I want to ask you, in our own lives, why are we so deeply tempted to buy the Ferrari engine first? Why do we just skip the Volkswagen frame entirely?
It's because the vessel building phase offers zero social validation.
Oh, that hurts, but it's true.
Think about it. The engine is visible, right? It's a capability you can show off. But preparing your central nervous system to handle stress, or learning emotional regulation, or developing basic financial literacy, that is digging the hole in the dirt.
Right, like someone reading a Steve Jobs biography, getting super inspired, and immediately trying to launch a disruptive tech startup.
Exactly.
But they haven't ever managed a simple personal budget or learned how to communicate with a team without screaming.
They are revving a massive engine on a frame that cannot handle the vibration. And we see the results of that constantly. Burnout, broken relationships, financial ruin.
Yep.
Neither the inner conviction nor the outer act is sufficient on its own. They have to be sequenced correctly.
Okay, so you've dug the hole. You've done the unglamorous work of building the vessel. But what happens when that internal conviction finally has to express itself in the real world?
Right, when the inner and outer clash.
Yes, because this requires a total commitment to your inner premise.
Yeah.
And this takes us on a bit of an unexpected detour into screenwriting, which I found fascinating.
Ah, the Silver Linings Playbook example.
Exactly. Stephen Pressfield shares this note on Craft regarding that movie. There's this pivotal scene where the character Tiffany, played by Jennifer Lawrence, is trying to definitively prove to a table full of people that she isn't bad luck.
And her method for doing this is amazing.
It's so weird. She recites these highly specific historical football scores with absolute terrifying conviction. And Pressfield extracts this brilliant rule from the scene. He says, if you're going to fight crazy, you got to fight by crazy's rules.
It's such a great observation.
He notes that, a half-committed superstition is just awkward for everyone to watch. But a fully committed one possesses the coherence of something actually lived rather than just performed.
Yes.
But I need you to help me connect the dots here, because I'm laughing reading this. How does a woman arguing football statistics in a diner connect back to Bourget's heavy philosophical point about living how you think?
Well, because it all comes down to integrity. Tiffany doesn't hedge.
Okay.
Think about how we usually operate when our inner convictions are challenged by the outside world. We water them down. We perform this slightly more acceptable version of our beliefs just to appease the people in the boardroom or at the dinner table.
We break character.
Exactly, we break character. But Tiffany doesn't do that. In her inner domain, those exact football scores are the absolute proof of her worth as a human being.
It's literally life or death for her.
Right. And because her outer expression in that diner perfectly matches her internal premise, it is deeply compelling. It has absolute structural integrity.
She doesn't apologize for the root system she grew.
No. Once you commit to an inner premise, even if it looks entirely irrational or crazy to the spectators, you have to follow it all the way through with rising emotional truth. People respect structural integrity even if they don't understand the building.
Fight crazy by crazy's rules. That is so good. Okay, so we've built the vessel. We've committed fully to our inner premise without hedging. Now it is finally time to turn the key in the ignition.
Time for the engine.
Yes, we get to turn the engine on and create the outward change we've been preparing for. Because none of this philosophy is an argument for just permanent inwardness.
No, of course not. You build the vessel specifically so it can eventually carry force in the real world.
Exactly. Which brings us to this final step in the sequence from our sources. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes the dream come true.
That is the engine roaring to life.
But reaching this stage comes with a steep psychological price. It requires a specific posture that is incredibly uncomfortable.
The humiliation.
Yes. Our sources highlight a very blunt definition of humility. It states, humble equals willing to humiliate yourself equals humility.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. willing to humiliate yourself.
Mhm.
We love the montage in the movie where the hero trains to cool music for 3 minutes, but we hate the actual daily grind. So how does this harsh definition reframe the way we view patience in our own lives?
Well, it completely strips away the romance, for one. We often treat patience as a passive virtue, right? Like you're just calmly waiting in line for your turn.
Yeah, just sitting around.
But in this context, patience is an active, agonizing choice. It's the active choice to remain in the unimpressive phase while everyone around you is being flashy.
Oh, that's so true.
Think about what it actually means to build the vessel. It means being the 40-year-old executive who is willing to sit in a beginner's 101 class.
Right.
It means choosing strict movement quality in the gym when literally everyone else is lifting heavier weights with terrible form.
You have to be willing to look slow if you ever want to become truly fast.
And in a culture that just worships speed and visible output, looking slow feels like falling behind. It feels like losing.
It's humiliating.
Exactly. That is the humiliation. Choosing the invisible, unimpressive vessel-building phase over the forceful display is the exact humiliation that true humility requires. And if you aren't willing to endure that, you will inevitably panic, bolt the Ferrari engine onto your fragile Volkswagen frame, and shatter.
It all comes back to sequence. Inner before outer. Presence before performance.
Absolutely.
Vessel before the engine. Coherence before expression.
Yeah.
The far horizon, the afterlife from the parable, it really can wait.
It has to wait.
It has to. So take a look at your own life right now.
Mm.
Are you trying to bolt a Ferrari engine onto a Volkswagen frame in your career, your relationships, or your goals?
Yeah.
Are you demanding the outward, visible results before you've done the humiliating work of digging the hole in the dirt?
And I'll add one final thought, building on Tolstoy's idea of outward change being visible residue.
Yeah, please.
If your outward life right now is just the visible residue of your past inner work, what exactly is the invisible work that your current life is leaving behind? Are you leaving the residue of a performance or the residue of a life actually lived?
Wow. That is the question, isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
Take care of your root system, build that vessel, and we will catch you next time.